Hi, I'm Doc John from Mobility Doc, and I want to talk to you today about the shoulder mobility. Recently, we posted inside our blog on mobility-doc.com a little assessment you can do no matter where you are, even at your own work desk, to see what your shoulder mobility is like. In the interest of what I'm trying to do here, I'll go through a quick assessment of myself so that way you can see my shoulder range of motion, which is admittedly not great at this moment, but I figured why not use this opportunity to show you what my actual shoulders are naturally like, especially when I haven't done anything to make them better yet, and then show you how these exercises quickly change what I look like and how you could do exactly what I'm doing from your own home. Now, the self-assessment is pretty simple. Basically, you have both hands as far out as possible to your sides, thumbs inside your palms, make a fist. You're gonna go one arm over top of the other, one arm rather over top of your head, while one goes behind your back. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn around so that way you can see what this looks like from behind me. But rest assured, it's not pretty. But again, we're gonna do this as a test and a retest. I'm gonna go a few times in one direction, a few times in the other direction, just so that way I can say I at least warmed up a little bit into the movement, and then we'll go over the exercises, and then we'll check this test again. Okay, so bear with me, don't judge too much. The floor angel is one of my more favorite exercises for improving shoulder mobility. Quickly correct and create more range of motion in your shoulder, especially any mobility or motion that involves you having to reach over your head. Let's go over the floor angel and I'll show you what you need to do in order to get the most out of this motion. You're gonna go ahead and lay flat on your back with your knees bent, feet on the floor. You wanna make sure that your head's nice and comfortably rested on the ground. You could use a pillow if you want. And you want to keep your pelvis set down and back. Don't let yourself overarch in your low back. Try to keep a nice neutral spine. You don't have to exaggerate how flat you are in your lower back, but there shouldn't be a whole lot of room, and you should have mostly a neutral position. So don't arch. All right, arms at your sides. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna focus on, and I'm gonna show you just with one hand at this moment. So you're gonna focus on letting this arm track up and over your head and out while trying to keep all of this arm flat on the ground. If I just allowed myself to turn to my side, I could very easily track my arm along the floor. But when I'm flat on my back and I have both my arms down, I'm gonna start with my elbows here, make sure my hips are in neutral. I'm gonna tuck my pelvis just a little bit, and I'm gonna press up and over with both arms, and then I'm gonna come back and in. I'm gonna go ahead and do 10 of those. As I'm reaching up and at my sides, or over my head rather, I'm trying to keep my forearms and my upper arm and my shoulders and my back all nice and flat on the floor. I'm aware of my left side and my right side and how they feel differently as I bring my elbows into my sides and as I press my hands over my head. Now, when my elbow is coming in at my side like this, at this point here, I want to make sure I don't let my shoulders roll forward. So don't let it roll forward. Keep that shoulder down and back into the ground, even as the elbows come in, and then press up overhead. Now that's the most important part of this, is you want to keep a nice tucked pelvis, flat back, a little bit of maybe even feel a little bit of like you're doing a crunch or about to hollow and do a crunch. You want to make sure your shoulders stay down and back on the ground. And even as your elbows come in, your shoulders are back. As I press overhead, my shoulders remain back, my hips remain in neutral, and I reach up over. So you can do about 10. You can go through a couple sets or a few sets. It's okay if you do extra, especially if you feel like you're improving. Let's go over a variation of the floor angel that I like to call the twisted angel, because you're going to be rotating your pelvis over and just focusing on one side. And by rotating and twisting through your pelvis and your trunk and focusing on just one side, you really get a huge stretch out of this. So I'm going to go ahead and show you it on my right side, the twisted angel, but obviously you would do both sides equally. So let me start on my back. You're going to let your leg come over top of you, and I'll even support my right leg in this case down with my left arm. Now on my right hand, I'm going to go ahead and do everything I was doing, or everything I would do when I'm doing the floor angel, but now I'm just focusing on one side at a time, really trying to keep my shoulder back and towards the ground, trying to keep my entire arm tracking along the floor, and at the same time, I'm keeping myself rotated or twisted, which is why I call it the twisted angel. Make sure that when this leg comes over, that the knee is above the hip, so that way you don't overarch in your low back. So keep the knee up above the hip, twist yourself over, make sure your neck is nice and comfortable, and track your arm along the floor. You would do about 10 reps and do both sides. So you could do 1 set all the way up to 3 sets. All that really matters is that you feel yourself improving. So I want to show you what it looks like on my left side, because as I was preparing for my post test, I was practicing on my left shoulder for the twisted angel. When I was doing the regular floor angel, my left shoulder felt different than my right, but it wasn't as obvious until I did the twisted angel, which is why I like it so much, because it really brings out any stiffness and tightness and differences between the sides. So let me go ahead and show you me performing the twisted angel with the vantage point of looking at my left side. I'm gonna go ahead and do like I did before, feet flat on the ground. I'm gonna twist, I'm gonna take my top leg, bring it over, and now what you'll see is when I do this, right away I feel a significant amount of tension, tightness in my right hip flexor, and difficulty even just rotating. I'm going to use this twisted angel, which you can see is a lot more difficult than when I did this movement on the other side. I'm having a harder time trying to track my shoulder, my forearm, my upper arm, all along the floor. It'll get better in real time as I'm talking to you, which is why I'm going over this with you, so you could see my left side and my right side, and why it's important to do each side and sometimes to isolate your sides. So again, we're just using the twisted angel and the floor angel, and then we're gonna post-check the improvement by performing the same shoulder mobility exercise I did. All right, let's go ahead now and recheck. I performed a couple sets of floor angels, just regular floor angels on both sides equal. And then I performed a couple sets of twisted angels, right side and left side individually. Now let's see what my post check looks like for my shoulder range. And I have a feeling you'll see it's already improved, even though it's not perfect, but I could have certainly spent another 5 minutes or so doing it. And I would repeat this at least for a couple of weeks every single day to make a change until I get on top of it. Let's take a look. Just as a quick little side note, this actual shoulder range of motion test, the way they do it, and they score it from 1, 2, or 3, so any of those numbers, with 3 being perfect. And technically you could be a 0 if you have pain, but if you don't have pain, you're either a 1, a 2, or a 3. Now, the way to get that score is by measuring the distance between your fists. However, when you're doing this by yourself, it's really not that important that you get the actual measurement. If you have a friend who can take a quick tape measure or a little ruler and see what each side is like, it helps a little bit when you're trying to really quantify how much you've improved in a short period. But if you're by yourself, don't worry about it. Just assess yourself left and right equally, and you'll get a sense of how you feel. I know that when my right shoulder is behind my back and my left is above my head, that's my worst range of motion, or my lesser of the two sides. And all that matters is that I can feel that and feel what it's like, and I know that it's not great. And then when I recheck myself or retest myself, I'll be able to see that there's a difference. So as you can see, it's improved. It's not perfect, but it's definitely better. And this was just using the floor angel and the twisted angel to make a difference. I want you to go ahead and do the same thing. Take a look at our blog post on our website, subscribe to our blog so that way you can stay on top of all the tips and tricks that we're sharing. We'd like to continue to give out as much information as possible since we're able to create all of this information based on our tens of thousands of patients that we've treated and we've helped with similar type problems. If you want to learn more about the shoulder mobility assessment that you can do at your desk, check out our blog at mobility-doc.com. We'll include the link inside.